Talking T-Birds. I'm your host, Phil Kohler, and today I'm joined by the head basketball coach of the Casper College Thunderbirds, Sean Gutty. Coach, how are we feeling today?
Feeling a lot better after last week.
I bet you are. So, Coach, you guys come in 15-4 overall. You get 2 big wins this last weekend. Give us kind of a little broad statement about how things went this last weekend.
Sure. I think we really came out hot against Western Nebraska. Shot the ball really well. From the floor, from three. And really kind of just showed what our offensive capabilities are early. Got a little stagnant in the second half, especially offensively. Credit to them. They, went zone and really gave us problems with what they were doing defensively. But ultimately our guys were tough enough to gut it out and get a win, guarding.
Yeah. So you guys beat Western Nebraska by 6, but it was a lot more than that most of the way. Like you said, kind of tightened up in the second half. Kennard Richardson leads the way with 28. Dalton Peterson had 17. He hits 5 threes. Talk a little bit about their scoring ability and what you can expect from those guys on a nightly basis.
Yeah, definitely. Kennard has been really, really good filling into this role of, being our leading scorer, especially after, the beginning of the year having to ask him to be a point guard, with all the injuries we had. So he's really adapted into doing what he does best, which is put the ball in the hole. And he had 28, even going, 1 for 10, 1 for 9 from 3. Didn't even shoot it that great. But he's had the ultimate green light because he's proven that he can handle it and proven that he can do it on a nightly basis. And then we have, 3 other guys that are averaging double figures with Dalton, Jaron, and Jameson, and then Nestor, who's like right at 9.9. The balance is really good. I think it makes us really, really tough to guard, makes us really, really tough to prepare for. And those guys have really been able to perform when their name's been called.
Sure. And so on Friday night, Jameson adds 13 rebounds for you. Talk about his versatility and his ability to kind of really play all 5 positions, essentially, rebounding the basketball and being able to kind of lead that transition.
Jameson is a special talent. You see, there's about every year in JUCO, there's a handful of guys that are kind of like him. 6'6", can handle it, athletic, can do a little bit of everything. He's provided a lot more consistency for us coming back from break. Then that was what we kept asking from him. He's starting to shoot it with a little bit more confidence. He was a very capable 3-point shooter last year, shot 32.5% from 3. So we've kind of challenged him to be more confident in doing that. And part of it is him knowing that we have really good shooters around him, and he's just being unselfish. But when he's clicking, it makes us really, really hard to guard because he can really pass it, rebound it, do all the little things that you just said.
Sure. So Saturday you guys get NJC again. This is the second time that you played them in a week. Mm-hmm. The first time you beat them by 17. The second time you come back out and beat them by 30. Tell us what it takes to beat a good team playing them back-to-back like that in just a week's time, and how difficult that can be sometimes.
Yeah, it's really hard, especially if, you're able to kind of pump out a lead like we did at their place and beat them by double digits. A lot of it was just us having conversations with our guys trying to understand, that was, we don't want them to think that was a fluke, but also know that you still have something to prove because what NJC is going to bring to the table, knowing how to respond to that. And we, unfortunately, one of their best players got hurt the game before, didn't play against us on Saturday. But, they're such a tough group. They, showed that early on. They cut the lead to 13 at halftime. Started the second half. We're sitting there thinking it might be the same type deal as it was on Friday with Western Nebraska. But, our guys really bought into proving that they could guard defensively in the half court, put together stops, and ultimately just keep pushing, and not getting comfortable.
Yeah. So Saturday in that game, Jameson Epps leads the way with 23 points. He also chips in 11 rebounds, 6 assists, and 5 steals. We talk a little bit about that that stat stuffer ability. Talk a little bit more about that and his ability to just kind of do a little bit of everything.
I think that where Jameson's truly grown is, really understanding that the stat stuffing has to naturally come. At first, I think he was kind of looking to fill that role almost a little too much to where it affected us winning and losing. Now I think he's letting it become more of a natural thing. And the first thing for him is rebound. With us, we always talk about you got to rebound. You have to be averaging a double-double. You have to be averaging 10 to 12 rebounds a game, which means you have to do it every night, which is hard for kids to do. And then on top of that, just his ability to do that usually sets the tone for his effort, attitude, how he plays the rest of the game. So that was just a perfect example of that night. He had led the team in rebounds. It inspired Nestor to go get 11 rebounds,
Yeah, sure.
you know, and he's somebody, again, that we've also asked to do that a lot of. You know, and Jamison really just was able to fall into the flow of the offense and confidently make the right plays.
Yeah. So Kennard Richardson adds 21.7 assists, or 7 assists. Like you said, Nestor adds 11 rebounds. More than that, you guys shoot 56% as a team on Saturday. Again, against a good basketball team, what are you guys doing offensively that's leading to this ability to create open shots and make open shots?
I think our unselfishness has really, really shown over the last 2 months, really, you know, heading into break, before break, and now. You know, early in the year, especially playing against really good teams, we would get really stagnant, try and go one-on-one hero ball. Now, you know, these guys have really bought into sharing the basketball, creating plays for others, knowing that if you're getting in the paint, it's going to be probably to find somebody, you know, and still maintaining their aggression. You know, and I give a lot of credit to our assistant, Carlos Taylor. I mean, he's put in a lot of different sets, you know, and a lot of different actions, teaching these guys different things so they can understand the flow of the actual game versus just running a set and then standing around and waiting for somebody to make a play.
Well, and so the sets are great, but I feel like what you guys have done a lot is gotten out in transition, and it's led you guys to being the leading scoring team in Region 9 as well as the leading offensive efficiency team. Talk a little bit about your ability to get out in transition and where it starts with the rebounding, but then also getting out and finding guys as you're rotating down the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I think the unselfishness is a big part of it. You know, getting these guys to buy into finishing plays and not just feeling like they can leak out. Team rebounding, right? Gang rebounding. You know, we're continuing to improve at that. We're not perfect at it. You know, we still got a lot of area to growth with that, but you know, it starts the break. You know, and since I've been here, we've consistently been one of the top teams in the country in transition. It's something we really, really preach. We try and get these guys to buy into it and get them to understand like it's a fun style to play. You know, even with all the running, that isn't very fun in practice, you know, but it leads to something. And this group has really bought into filling spots, being disciplined in transition, and it's ultimately led to a lot of points for us.
Yeah, so we talked last week about how the injury bug has affected you guys a little bit early in the season. You had a lot of guys really step up and play great basketball this weekend, especially on the defensive end. You look at guys like Darius Robinson, Jaden Peters, Usman Dia, and even Tyler Pacheco came in and knocked down some shots this weekend. Talk about how important it is for those guys to kind of step into that role, continuing to do what they do defensively, but even adding a little bit on the offensive end.
It's really important, you know, and what helps is that their teammates believe in them. You know, and myself and Coach Taylor believe in them, you know, and it's always been one of those things that, you know, when we had more guys, it's always hard to try and find the right roles, right fits for guys, when they're going to get in the game, how they're going to, you know, act when they get in the game. The great thing about those guys is they haven't changed who they are. You know, Usman has been the same dude for 3 years who is consistently going to give us defensive effort, not complain, go out there and play as hard as he can. Jaden Peters has proven to be the same thing. You know, and he can affect the game in multiple different ways just because of his attitude and his effort. You know, and Darius Robinson just continues to improve, playing both point guard and off guard position. You know, and we talked about last week trying to find moments where we know we're going to need Pacheco to come in and just provide a little spark. And he provided that the other night, I think, in a big moment. You know, in a couple big moments where NJC kind of had proven they were going to start coming back and they were going to fight. You know, we put in a guy that all his teammates believe in, and just want to see him be successful. He's successful. He guards. He has a couple steals. You know, so those guys buying into their role, buying into what they're doing, knowing that when it's time for them to go in the game, they can't act different than they have before. And this group's done a great job of it so far.
Well, so now that we're done looking in the past, let's look ahead to this weekend. You guys head to Powell to play Northwest. Your next 3 conference games, the first 3 conference games of the year, are all going to be on the road. Talk about how difficult it is to play on the road, especially in this region where weather conditions always are going to play a little bit of a part as far as the travel time and things like that.
You know, us coaches are always pretty negative Nancy's when it comes to these type of things. Every coach I've talked to in the league keeps thinking our travel is going to be a nightmare. We're going to have to schedule games. We're going to have to reschedule games. I'm hoping they're wrong. You know, that's always such an added element to this thing that makes it difficult. You know, everybody knows going west on I-80 or east on I-80 isn't ideal, you know, or going up north to northwest. But, you know, you just got to roll with the punches and try and figure out the best way to do it. You know, on top of that, you're going to play against really good teams. I mean, we talked about last week the parity in our league across the board is really, really good this year. So going to Northwest, going to Central early is really going to be a great opportunity for us to show just how tough we are. Sure. And, you know, it's going to be a challenge that, hey, we've proven to ourselves that we were ready to come back and play, you know, from break. now can we prove to ourselves we're ready to go on the road and set the tone in league play, knowing that, you know, if we win a couple games here or there, we're going to be in the driver's seat, getting a couple road wins right off the bat.
Sure. So let's dial in here on the Trappers. They come in 13-7. They're 4-2 overall, but they've lost 2 out of 3 coming back from break. Give us a little bit of a rundown on what we can expect from Northwest.
They're a really tough team. You know, they're disciplined. They don't make a whole lot of mistakes. They're talented. They're big. You know, a bigger team than they've been in the past. You know, and really, it's a tough test, especially going to their place. You know, they got a couple guys that can really fill it up, really score it. But ultimately, they get their wins by defending and being a tough group. I mean, they've played Salt Lake tough. They've played some of the top teams in the country really tough so far this year. So I kind of stare at those games more than I stare about their, you know, last 2 or 3 where they've lost to, because I don't think that's really who they are.
Sure. When we talked a little bit earlier about your emphasis on rebounding the basketball, Northwest comes in with plus 8.4 rebounds per game margin. So they're out rebounding teams at a pretty high clip. What kind of focus does that allow for you guys to put on having to rebound the basketball, especially on the road?
It's great because I think our guys and kids these days just in general are numbers oriented. If you can throw a stat at them, then it kind of sets home the point. You know, so that's a good thing that we can at least kind of show them and say, hey, we're not just saying this to say it. You know, we need to fix our rebounding woes. We need to make sure that we're holding them off the glass. You know, and Western Wyoming is going to be the same way when we play them. Teams in the league, like there's, you know what it's going to come down to. So it's a good one to get right out of the way.
Sure.
You know, try and get on the road these first couple and get out of the way. But you know, it's going to be a tough challenge for us.
So you guys get to see former Thunderbird Davion McAdam, a Casper kid, comes in averaging 19.8 points a game. He's second in the region in scoring, right behind Kennard Richardson. Talk a little bit about his ability to score it and Kennard's ability to score it, and kind of how those two guys are similar players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's going to be a great matchup. I mean, I couldn't be happier for Davion from the perspective of him being able to perform and you know, do what he's capable of doing. You know, proving people wrong that he's a really good player in junior college. You know, he's averaging 19 a game. He gets it in so many different ways. You know, he's aggressive. He gets fouled. He goes to the rim. He's shooting it at a really good rate this year. You know, and honestly, him and Kennard both kind of have the same build. You know, so I think it will be a good matchup for us to try and see if we can, you know, shut him down. And nobody knows us better than him. Sure. You know, so it'll be hard. It'll be a hard battle for both of us, I think, going into that one, knowing that you know, it's going to come down to just who can make more plays. Yeah. You know, but Kennard is earned as a, you know, top 20 scorer in the country. Has earned it. Has proven he can do it. You know, so hopefully he can kind of keep those, you know, that momentum going. Yeah.
Well, and I think that you talk about Davion's ability to score it in multiple different ways. Kennard has that same ability. He's going to score at all 3 levels and be able to contribute to his team, you know, whether it's from 3 or whether it's inside the paint. And so looking forward to that matchup. Saturday at 4 o'clock from Powell, Wyoming. YouTube, Northwest College Trapper Athletics to tune into that game on Saturday. Coach, anything you want to add?
Go T-Birds.
Go T-Birds. Thanks again for joining us for Talking T-Bird. I am Phil Kohler, your host, and we look forward to seeing you next week.